Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown featuring LP's very own Sarge 71 and Angelus in charge of the Dark Elves and the Vampire Counts here. We are on Ancient Dragon Cave. Should be a really fun showdown, as both of these factions are considered, I think, on the weaker side of the rosters at the moment, in the overarching kind of view of the factions, at least by some, so we'll have to see how these two champs do prove their worth in a battle up against each other. So for the forces of the Dark Elves in the front lines, we have triple bleak swords. Looks like one of them, or two of them in fact, do have a cheeky chevron. These guys, relatively cheap, relatively cheerful, and they're just happy to be here for the slaughter. They do fantastic work up against skeleton warriors and zombies. On the flanks we have some dread spears as well to try and keep the core together. We also have a ton of witch elves. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 in fact, one of which is the Sisters of Singing Doom. Witch Elves, pretty interesting pick here. They do, of course, deliver that poison which can make the enemy rampage, useful for pinning in large entities, and also they'll be able to chew their way through the kind of lightly or like chaffy units that the Vampire Counts do tend to bring. The real interesting part of this build, though, is in this central section. First, we have the leadership core, which is, of course, a Knight assassin, mixed in with Marathi herself, the evil queeness, who is going to be coming in with a Wand of Caradon. We have Soul Stealer as well, and then she's got all her buffs and debuffs, and you'll often see her in a blob of heroes. As I said in one of my previous videos, I think two videos again, currently in the current meta, I think a Lord with 2 heroes is almost a must pick, as it's pretty deadly and scary at the moment. We also have a Master as well, going to be applying Guardian to all these nearby heroes, as well as being an anti-large specialist. But the real interesting units in this matchup, in my opinion, are the Blood Rack Medusas. We have one on the right hand side, slithering forth, and we have the Sign of the Red Ruin, the Regiment of Renowned version, and what a freaking awesome model these bad ladies are. You don't get to see them terribly often. Of course, Regiment of Renowned coming in with the Whale of Malice as well, and they're basically mobile artillery pieces. Dark Elves are a faction I really need to try to get into. I think I'll enjoy them quite a lot. And yeah, kind of working, I suppose, as an ancient salamander style unit. Now, for the forces of the undead, it looks like hidden in the trees we have double dire wolves. Can be doing some flanking, trying to break into that back line, as well as some fell bats up in the sky. So certainly expecting some more archer kind of play coming in from the Dark Elves. Although there's not really much of a backline to get into apart from the Blood Rack Medusas, who can fight in melee relatively well. We have zombies, of course, dotted along the front line, mixed in with skeleton warriors, cheap, uncheerful troops who are here to absorb the damage charge of the enemy and slowly grind and tire them out. While the secondary line is, of course, a Grave Guard, including the Sternsman, Regiment of Renowned version, who have regeneration, so they're particularly sticky and they do some pretty decent damage. Apart from that, yeah, Grave Guard with great weapons into the sunset. For their leadership core, you have a White King on horseback here, anti-infantry specialist, can do some pretty decent work. In the distance, we have a Necromancer, who's going to be used as a battery here, so you see he doesn't actually have any spells. He's going to be used for the Forbidden Rod, which means he'll take damage, but it improves the power reserves and power recharge rate. You often see someone just like literally leave them in the trees and just be used as a battery, basically, to allow Henrik Kemmler, it seems, to get a little bit more Winds of Magic. He has a really cool steed to be darting through the line of zombies. Of course, he can summon Krell, a deadly combatant indeed. He has Undeath Resurgent. We have Raised Dead, of course, Dance Macabre, or Valhel's Dance Macabre, there we go. And we have Invocation Hex, all the kind of competitive spells you often see. No Wind of Death, unfortunately. Cool, and it looks like the Dark Elves quite happy to sit back and await the undead hordes. Direwolves and Fellbats slowly getting into position. We're interested to see how much damage these ladies do on the Grave Guard. Probably going to be some good targets here. I don't think they're going to be particularly great at taking down the single entities, but I haven't really tested them much myself. They are it says on their tooltip they're anti-infantry, so we'll have to wait and see. Sometimes the tooltips can lie a little bit, however. Big darts coming in. Those fins fling across the battlefield so fast, their little screams. Looks like they're just hitting zombies, but still leaving a big pile of dead zombies and rotten flesh in their wake. I'm sure they'll be switching targets now. Looks like they're aiming for that White King and some skeleton warriors, as the deadly trio do indeed approach here as well. That Knight assassin going to be able to get some good sniping potential as well with his crossbow. In the back line, Fellbats have darted down, but the Witch Elves will cut them to ribbons in a matter of seconds. As it looks like Marathi does do a little barrel roll into combat. Supported by the Master, she can quite easily take on the White King, especially considering that Master is going to be coming in with that bonus versus large, or anti-large in fact. Should be able to do some pretty huge work indeed. Looks like, unfortunately, the Bloodwrack Medusas are currently tied up, so they're not going to be firing in. We'll have to wait to see if they get freed before we can check out their damage input. Direwolves have danced into the back line onto the Witch Elves, which isn't the best target for them. They will do a ton of damage, as the Witch Elves are naked fanatical ladies with only 5 armor, but they are anti-infantry, and the doggos count as infantry due to their size, so it's going to be a bit of a bloodbath on both sides, and the Witch Elves will probably be able to clear up both of the units there. Bit of a summon of zombies in the back line, still trying to pin in the Siren of the Red Ruin. Yeah, Siren of the Red Ruin is indeed. Looks like the assassin is going to be consistently focusing down Henrik Kemmler as well, who has popped an Invocation Hex to keep him nice and topped up. That assassin constantly using that crossbow. It looks like the Bloodwrack Medusa is going on the offensive, hunting down Heinrich Kemmler, and doing a pretty decent job of it as well. Fellbats are rampaging into the Bloodwrack Medusa, but it looks like just one bat is doing so. And a lovely zombie summon as well to allow him to escape there. Good play by the undead player for sure. Looks like the Son of Red Ruin has nearly managed to get clear of those pesky Fellbats. So it's going to be firing in down the line. Looks like there was a couple units of Blood Knights I somehow completely missed. Must have been hiding in the trees over here. It looks like we have 2 units, and they've managed to shunt themselves into the back line. Bit of a fire is coming upon them, and they have started to rampage, which is going to be a big problem. Second unit darting in as well, and it looks like they're going to be hit by a fat Soul Sealer. Oh no, it looks like they've managed to retreat just about in time, and the Blood Knights here though are pretty doomed at the moment, kind of stuck fighting Marathi, and she'll happily duel them all day. Siren of the Red Ruin is hunting down Heinrich Kemmler. Assassin's Trophy has been popped on him as well as an Invocation of Heck, trying to keep him topped up. But the Siren of the Red Ruin is going to be doing some pretty decent damage, and those Medusas are quick across the ground. Been used pretty effectively so far, although Blood Knights have managed to pop in and do a lovely surround. The Whale of Malice has gone down, which causes damage, and it's pretty good overall to multiple combatants, and Blood Knights only took a little bit of damage there. Dread Spears holding back tides of skeletons and zombies everywhere you look. Witch Elves looking pretty beat up at this point, but they've managed to do a huge damage all round, and Marathi is helping clear up this unit of Blood Knights. Pretty good efficiency, as I say, that she does get flung to the ground. Witch Elves did get 110 kills and pretty much put those Direwolves out of action. They are kind of down just to a couple of models at this point, and yeah, not doing too good for them at all. Bleak Swords do dart in on top of the Necromancer, as well as Krell, it looks like, who has been summoned. And it's not often you see a summon lose pretty much all his health, especially Krell, but he's been dueling at double heroes, it would seem. A fat Soul Sealer does indeed go down. Looks like it only mainly catches zombies though, and that's about it. But still, gets some pretty decent damage. Heinrich Kemmler as well has been chased once again by these Medusas as they sliver forth into battle. And that must be... oh, look at those little snake animations as well. That's really cool. A big shot goes into the back of Kemmler. He's not having a good day at all. He's at his healing cap. He's had to use a ton of his Winds of Magic on himself. He's just popped a Dance Macabre as well to increase his speed to help him escape there, which is a nice use of that spell as well. Blood Knights have once again danced in to try and deal with these large threats. With the Master and Marathi always sticking nearby, their anti-large halberds really coming into play here, dragging down those mighty knights from their undead steeds. That's getting some good value all round. Although the Blood Knights look like they're going to be able to live to fight another day. Fortunately, a lot of their healing has been used up on Kemmler himself, rather than on these expensive Blood Knight units. The Siren of the Red Ruin has taken a bit of a battering here, but up to 52 kills, and is probably going to be able to shoot in some more shots. Getting a lovely shot into the back of those Blood Knights, and I think this is going to be a Soul Sealer coming in. It is indeed, and that may be enough to finish off the weaker unit of Blood Knights as another shot comes in, taking them from their steeds. Still the chevron on some of these guys, not sure how many they had at the start of the battle, however. And it looks like, yeah, Blood Knight's pretty much done for. Unit of Spearmen is clearing up all the chaff over on this flank, and even doing some decent damage to Kemmler himself, down to just 700 health. He needs to stay out of combat by all means necessary. With balanced power is now starting to go relatively high in the Dark Elf favour. Blood Mac Reducer does manage to rally over on the flank here, getting in a few shots at the charging Blood Knights, killing some models with every shot. Up to 64 is some pretty impressive stuff, although some of them were zombies, I suppose, from the start of the battle. And in come the Blood Knights, though, going to be ramming those lances into her flesh. Means she's going to struggle a little bit here. The assassin is desperately chasing his target here, and that crossbow has pretty decent range on it. Looks like he has managed to whittle down Kemmler's health to just about 400. And Blood Knights are losing the fight here, unfortunately for them, up against the Medusa. As a massive shot comes in from her sister, the Siren of the Red Ruin, up to 64 kills, doing some pretty decent damage. Although it looks like the Blood Knights will have a bit of a last laugh here. The last 2 knights standing strong and driving back this fell beast. probably a bit reminiscent of them when they were actually once knights, kind of defeating evil creatures and the like before they became them. Master is holding the line here up against the Grave Guard and the Sternsmen, who are putting on a good display though, with a fat Soul Stealer coming in, as well as some Bleak Swords. Going to get a nice rear attack in, trying to take the Sternsmen unaware. Is probably going to seal their fate and slowly drag them down, although, as I said at the start of the battle, they're incredibly sticky. Siren of the Red Ruin is starting to approach as well, probably wants to fight from range where possible. Looks like the assassin has been revealed, and Kemmler's not a fan of this. Undead Resurgent has been popped on him to try and increase his leadership to stop him from routing, but the crossbowman does indeed take aim and start unleashing some shots. This assassin looking incredibly bloody. It must be his own blood, as of course the undead don't bring much to the battle themselves. Stones went down to just 36 models, but trying to regenerate all the same. Dread Spears are going to get a rear charge on them, and the Master is incredibly low health, although he's been an absolute shift so far, taking down Blood Knights and keeping Marathi nice and safe. In the trees, it looks like we have some Graveguard who unfortunately overextended, probably chasing off some troops as they have seen battle, are now going to be approaching this main blob. If they were allowed to fight with those other two units, perhaps they could have turned the engagement here in the centre. In the distance, you can still see that assassin desperately trying to catch Kemmler, and he's not having any of it here. So in come the Graveguard with great weapons, 82 to be exact. But the Siren of the Red Ruin is getting a little overexcited, then decides to charge in, breaking the charge of the Graveguard as well, into two sections. Marathi darts through the gap as well. And she's a very powerful duelist. I think she often gets kind of underlooked in that aspect, and people kind of just use her as a caster. But anti-large armor piercing, she's certainly no joke, especially with her debuffs. It looks like Armor is going to kick in here as the Graveguard crumble to their ruin. But a Pyrrhic victory indeed. Very well played to Sarge 71 and Angelus as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this battle. If you did, feel free to give it a big old thumbs up and subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. And feel free to comment and all that good stuff as well. Anyway, well played to both of these lads, and as for the build, some pretty interesting stuff, in particular from the Dark Elf side. The double Medusas did pretty good work. You don't get to see Bloodrack Medusas terribly often, but 65 and 86 kills is certainly no joke, and I can see the appeal here. They're pretty fast, so they can chase down heroes and characters alike, and as well, those blast damage can do pretty good work on the Graveguard and the Blood Knights, and it doesn't make you commit too much to a big old gun line either. These ladies are relatively fast and seem to operate in a similar-ish role to something like an Ancient Salamander, as apart from that, Witch Elves are just huge kills across the board as you expect. Good job as well rampaging units as always, like the Blood Knights, keeping them in place and allowing the combination of the Master as well as Marathi, who got 115 kills, to take them down with their anti-large halberds and spears and all that good stuff. As for the forces of Undead, the sneaky Blood Knights did some pretty good work once they did arrive. Slightly delayed, unfortunately, for them, but perhaps they were kept a little bit far off in an attempt to ambush the opponent, and in case there was any nasty long-range damage that could have affected them. But still got in here, did pretty good job, nearly took down both the Medusas, but again, because of that rampage, they kind of got in engagements they didn't want to stay in for a little bit too long, and kind of got dragged down there. Apart from that, Graveguard doing some pretty good work, and it's always good to see the Kemmler Master himself in glorious action. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed. Until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.